all you look for in a neighborhood. It's got good people, good families that have been here forever. It's got just a great atmosphere.
It's where neighbors can sit out on the front porch and enjoy a glass of iced tea on a summer afternoon.
And a great spot for all age groups. It's that feeling of the small community, but yet you're near such a big city.
No place like it in Cincinnati, or very few places like it probably in all of Ohio, Indiana, or Kentucky.
It's very Norman Rockwell.
That's home to me.
It's a history of families that have been growing up here generation after generation.
Participation, everybody pulls together in time of need.
A little bit of heaven right here on earth. It's not manicured, but it's like a beautiful woman waking up in the morning and she hasn't combed her hair yet.
Especially in the spring and the fall of the year, this was a beautiful community. You felt like that you were glad you were alive and that you were there at that particular time to see the sun come up.
I've been all over the world in the service and everything, and I came back here to raise my family.
It's a very peaceful place to live.
Everything's here. I mean, you couldn't ask for more. And that's why I love it. I mean, it's the perfect place. What more can I say? It's a lovely village.
Glendale to me is just paradise.
Glendale is kind of about coming home for me.
Well, Glendale to me is the most perfect place in the whole U.S. of A.
It's a well-kept secret.
Kind of a Shangri-La.
Glendale is a nice place to live.
Old world sense of community.
A nice place that hasn't really moved too far with time.
And you feel that you have real companions here.
Glendale is history,
Friendliness.
Gas lamps.
Wildlife.
I'm down here today just walking to the village, going to the bank.
All sorts of super things.
If you care about it, that's what counts. Kind of neat knowing that my relatives began living here in about 1850. They walk the same streets I'm walking.
I think it's great to be old and end up where you feel at ease and safe, and that there are friends all around. I couldn't move. of my life. I was born in Glendale, in the house at 930 Forest Avenue.
And I have lived at 55 Coral Avenue for 55 years.
One of the things that many of us older people have tried to do is to give the newcomers a feeling of what it was like to be here and grow up. And the basic things then, I think, were you felt secure and you were safe and you were surrounded by families, whether they were your own family or other friends' families. All the doors were unlocked. I never locked a door in my life.
We notice we don't have the people in service now. See, this was service community. And that is one reason that most of them was here. That's the way they built these homes.
It's a long history.
I was born and raised in Glendale. Oh, my great-grandparents came here to Glendale from Germany.
Well, we came here in '37. Depression was easing, I guess, a little bit. It was right after the flood in Cincinnati.
In those days, the cars were probably mostly Ford Model T Fords. And the roads were maybe paved in the middle, but on both sides there was dirt, so you could ride horses.
Our life here was so isolated. Uncle Jim and his brother, Tom Carruthers, bought up land around the village, which is now called the Greenbelt.
I love to feel the soil through my hand, in my hands.
And you had to make your own entertainment. And people would, in the summertime, would gather at different homes, and they would, a couple would, maybe they'd have a couple of guitars and a drum and a trombone and a piano player, and they would have dances in the side yard.
Then on Sundays, my grandmother would organize walks for us and all our friends. And the walk went up Oak, crossing Route 4, down Sheffield Road, walking, no cars passing or anything, all the way out to where Camp Claybanks was.
I learned to swim in Claybanks.
And we used to do that too on a Sunday afternoon. Go out and go up the street across Chester and down Albion Avenue.
And I remember my dad building a dance floor, and it went all around the village. I mean, people would say, this Saturday night we'll go to so-and-so's house, and they'd come and get the dance floor, and I don't know where the musicians come from. It was probably local, most of them. But that was the fun. You made your own fun.
You know, my great aunt, that she was a caterer here in the village, and she did most of the things that were done. Her husband worked at the roundhouse. They liked to drink. They had a still in the basement. So I understand. But Aunt Fanny never went to the basement. Her husband always kept the fire so it would last all day, but it got particularly cold one day, and she went down there to, chunk up the fire, and discovered this still, and took an axe and chopped it up, and said they sat down and cried like babies.
I lived in Glendale among Fatty Hibbett, who was the caterer here. She served all the parties, and I was fortunate enough to serve one at the Lyceum with her, where everybody came to eat Fatty's good cooking.
Igler's had homemade ice cream, and you got a small dip for a nickel. Where if you went to Breakers, you got 2 dips for a nickel because it was Freckling's ice cream. It was not homemade.
Jack Johnson made that ice cream down there for years. I've known Jack was a black man that worked at Igler's all of his life. He made that ice cream.
When I was a kid, they had the Glendale Nurses Association. They also took care of your teeth. All of this was free.
When I went to St. Gabriel's School, all the kids were marched down to the community house, and that's where the community nurse was. And your teeth were checked, and you got vaccinated and things of that nature.
You didn't have welfare here. The welfare was down in Harry, White, and Brown. Everybody who needed food, that's where it came from. Glendale took care of their own.
I called him Uncle Jim. My stepfather was the mayor. He and Mrs. Proctor and Mrs. Mortimer Matthews, who was a proctor, turned down any help from the government during the Depression. And those three families supported the people in Glendale that needed help.
I was chief of the fire department for 32 years. When people had a fire in their home and were burnt out, all I had to do was make a phone call or two, and the people would come out with their checkbooks and help these people.
Oh yes, Shotman. He let me have a mixer when I didn't have no money. I just left Rogers and told him I wanted a mixer to make a pound cake. He said, take it. You work at Rogers.
As Mr. Schatzman said years ago, when people have got cash, they go to the supermarket. And when they want credit, they come to me. And that's the way it was in those days. During the Depression, why, the merchants here in the village helped a lot. They took care of the people.
Well, Schatzman's Hardware was there, and then the post office was right next to it. And then in later years, they moved them around the corner, and Igler's was right on that corner forever. And the old man Shepherd had a dry goods store. Everything we needed was right here. We might go to town to get a suit of clothes or something, but if you just want to deck overalls, you'd go to old man Shepherd's down there.
And Mary B. Moores, who lived across the lake, and Alice, who was her maid. They were dear friends of ours. Miss Moores died, and Alice finally went to Maple Knoll, and she died. But before Reese, we didn't have a car. We got so poor after the baby was born. Miss Moores told Reese one day when he was over doing the lawn, he did our lawn for years, Reese, I see you're borrowing a car to go to work. And she said, I want to help you. Miss Mary B. Moores wrote the down payment for the Plymouth that we bought brand new. These are the people I know in Glendale.
And Tri-County, where Sears and Roebuck's is built right now, used to be Gears's Wood. And St. Gabriel's would always have a picnic there.
We did, I think, in 7th and 8th grades on Saturdays, we were allowed to take the bus right here, Wood at Congress, go downtown, go to a movie and have lunch at Mullane's and wander around and come home.
That gets around to stunt night, which was completely done by Glendale people. The orchestra was completely Glendale. The songs were written by Glendale people. The costumes were made by Glendale people.
I enjoyed going to the stunt night and recognizing the people that were there because I knew most of them.
One night I was over on Spooner's apartment porch. I had a friend that lived there, Janet French, and all the people that lived in that apartment were out on the porch, and we were sitting on the steps, and suddenly the chimes rang. And we couldn't figure out why the chimes were ringing at 10 o'clock at night. But then they were playing nursery rhymes. So we said, well, it has to be Dick Warner. His baby has come.
Church used to play the bells for birthdays also.
We used to have the Baptist church and the Methodist church over here on the holidays, like Memorial Day, 4th of July. They would dig a pit, roast a pig.
I was born and baptized at St. Gabriel's, and I was educated at St. Gabriel's.
So we walked to school. On Wednesdays we went to the Episcopal Church for lunch, those of us who were Episcopalians, and that was fun. And after school we had a football team. Glendale had a football team in those years, and they had baseball teams, and we walked to any sports. We had to leave the school, cross Congress Avenue, walk along a dirt path alongside the Matthews house, and they had given all the property for the athletic field. Walk way over the athletic field, do what we were doing, and walk back.
And you know, we grew up to love those teachers. They were dear to us just like they were our parents. And I just can't thank them enough for the values that they instilled in us back in those days. And we didn't do too bad. We're still here. Most all of my classmates and the ones that I went to school with, they're all gone now. I think there's 5 of us left from the old Eckstein.
This village was great to the school teachers. The Harry Whiting Brown House was a place where some of them could live. I can remember having teachers for like Monday night dinners and Sunday noons, and the teachers were part of the community.
Glendale has become quite a transient community. Years ago it was just it was generation after generation, but it's no longer there anymore.
People move in and buy a new house, and 2 years later they're gone.
I think the people who have arrived in a sort of our town have added a new dimension that we sorely lack.
Overall, I think there is, sort of something about Glendale people, sort of, togetherness.
It's a comfortable place to live.
So now I'm 84 years old. All of these memories that I cherish around Glendale, they have been good to me.
And I don't regret one day my experiences here in Glendale. This will always be the apple of my eye.